How was that clap, Jamil?
Yes,
Pretty,
sir.
pretty good, pretty good. Welcome, everybody, to the Climate Podcast. I am your co-host, Ibrahim Zahdan, joined by my esteemed guest, Kaysam Mukahal, aka the Terminator, and by
Thanks
my
for having me.
co-host, Jamil Abid.
Whoop, whoop.
Kaysam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Pretty good, man. How you guys holding up during this crazy times, you and your family?
Yeah, it was rough at first, but I think like most people were adjusting. What about you guys?
Yeah, about the same, about the same. First couple months have been a little rough. After that, we
Mhm.
kind of got used to everything.
Yeah.
All right, so we asked you what your craziest smack talk story is.
Mhm.
You don't have one, you said. So
No.
what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask you the best player that you ever played against.
Okay. Let's see. So a couple years ago, I was playing at Lifetime Fitness, and you guys know Luther Head? He used to play for Illinois when they made the Final Four.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm playing 21 just with some random guys, and Luther Head uh like happens to join the game after like the first game we're playing. And I didn't know it was him at first, but like I kind of knew what he looked like, and the guy just couldn't miss. And I'm like, I think I know that guy. I asked him, are you Luther Head? He's like, yeah. So I was like, wow, man, this is crazy because I was a huge fan of his when he was on Illinois. That's kind of what sparked my interest in the game of basketball. So it was really cool to play against him, and just to play against someone that's in the NBA. While they were not in high school, not in college, but after having actually played in the NBA is pretty cool. It's a good
Yeah,
experience.
he was an Illinois legend, man. Everyone talks
Mhm.
about him. Like aside
Yeah.
from his NBA career, he was a legend in this state.
He
That's
was, and he had
crazy.
a nice NBA career too. He played for the Rockets for a couple of
Yeah,
seasons. Like he wasn't a
yeah,
scrub by any means. He actually got some minutes.
Yeah. Dude, he
Mhm.
was he was a baller.
Yeah.
Man.
that's
And
insane.
like you
Did you
hinted
give him that work?
yourself, you yourself are a baller. Do you want to give your balling portfolio for everyone so they don't think you're just some scrub? Kasem is another baller shot caller. Again, one of the best pickup players I've seen.
The
So
Terminator is what they call him. The Terminator.
Terminator. Well, yeah, I started playing basketball when I was about 7 years old. It was shortly after the Detroit Pistons won the championship. I think that's what got me into it.
okay.
Um, so after Detroit won, then Illinois had their really good season, and again, that kind of really made me excited and wanting to play basketball. So that's what sparked my interest in it. And then my first year of playing organized basketball was third grade when I was 8 years old. And from there, I never looked back. I continued to love the game and just wanting to keep playing. So I played in high school. I played AAU basketball, and then when it came time for college, I ended up working with the team for a little bit, the UIC men's basketball team.
Okay.
And another cool part about that is actually one of the assistants with UIC was one of the players on the 0405 Illinois team, D Brown,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Who's also
another
the
legend.
dab
Yeah,
dunker.
I didn't know D Brown worked for
Yeah,
USC.
yeah,
yeah,
it still does, I think, actually.
yeah.
Yo,
Mhm.
that's actually crazy.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was a really cool
Hopefully
experience.
we will win some games finally. That's insane. So, who was your favorite? You kind of touched on this, but who was your favorite player growing up? Who was the kind of guy that you modeled your game after?
uh, I liked Chris Paul a lot, Steve Nash. I think LeBron was my favorite player at first growing up, but then the more I started to think about who I could model my game after, like Steve Nash came to mind, Darren Williams back when he was playing at an all-star level, Chris
Nice.
Paul, like I said,
Which
um,
makes sense because
the point
around
guard.
that time you mentioned the Illinois team, so D Will was on that team at the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he was too. Yeah,
So that makes
and
sense.
actually, the funny thing was he was my third favorite player on that team
What?
because I like D Brown and Luther Head.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
insane, man.
Ended up
That's
not
cool.
nearly having as good a career as Darren Williams.
Hmm.
All
Damn.
right, so today's main discussion is regarding the G League versus the NCAA college basketball
Mhm.
and overseas ball and how they're different, how they're similar, and things like that. So first, go ahead, Jamil. What's up?
One thing, sorry to interrupt you. Do you guys want to give a background on what we're wearing today?
Oh yeah,
Sure.
The whole shebang. We'll start off with you, Kasem. What you
The
wearing? And talk about the background behind you. Geez, you got it all decked out.
yeah,
well,
that's
I'm
cool.
wearing Kirk Heinrich jersey here.
Captain Kirk.
Yep,
Legend.
Bulls legend. Then the background, not sure 100% what you guys can see here, but this is from when I played at the United Center with the Bulls Sox Academy. I played there 3 years. This is from 2009, and I got it autographed by a couple players. Joakim Noah being one, John Salmons.
Yo.
I forgot who the other one was. And then the jersey here, Derrick Rose jersey. I think I got that autographed at one of the games too. Not by Derrick Rose, but I think Noah as well. Got some trophies here behind me. You guys can see.
Nice.
And yeah, just some random posters or like memorabilia type stuff.
That D-Wade fathead though.
Fathead?
Oh,
Yeah.
the D-Wade. I got that when I was a kid. It just it's still up there.
That's awesome.
Amazing. All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Jamin.
Okay, so the day after U of I wins a basketball game, we get 20% off the bookstore.
Mhm.
And I just so happened to walk in the bookstore to see that they're selling only one basketball jersey, and it's Ayo Dosunmu's basketball jersey right here. Well, not technically his. It doesn't say his name on it because, you know, legal reasons. They can't have his name on it, but it's his. Everyone knows that's him. I copped at a decent price. I'm going to be keeping this for the rest of my life. This is going to be a relic, especially when he gets drafted next year. Hopefully a lottery pick. So, yeah, we'll see about that.
That's the perfect jersey to wear in a discussion like this. So we're gonna get into that a little later. I got the Derrick Rose Timberwolves print-inspired jerseys with the purple and black. That is one of my favorite jerseys, man. Just the color scheme is dope. And Derrick Rose, man, I feel like reinvigorated his career on that team. So big deal for me.
Yeah.
And then I got the CPSA background.
Represent.
Got to represent my hometown, you know, hometown high school. All right. So, like I was saying earlier, G League versus NCAA versus the overseas ball. The first thing I want to ask is, do you think that eventually players, top prospect players, instead of going to the NCAA, will eventually skip that and just go straight to the G League and be able to earn money while playing basketball and then potentially get a college degree at the same time, free of cost? In case we'll start with you.
I think it depends on the player. I mean, I think for most players, it's probably better to go to college. But, you know, if you're one of the top like 5 or 10 prospects from the high school class, it probably would be worth your while to go to the G League. You have a solid chance of being drafted in the first round, or at least being drafted. The downside, I think, of going to the G League would be a lot of the players aren't necessarily ready. You know, you're playing against professional basketball players, really high level players. And, you know, in college, you're playing against some good players, but just physically, they're not maybe as developed as players in the G League would be. So, you know, that's important. Also, too, you know, the experience of being in college, I think, is important. But, you know, at the end of the day, it comes down to each player's personal preference. You know, if you want the money right away, the G League could be an option. I'm not sure what they pay exactly, but if they start, you know, increasing the amount of programs they have for top flight high school players and start paying them, you know, between like $500,000 to $1 million, I think that's going to start to increase the appeal for a lot of top high school players.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jamin, what about you?
I mean, the pipeline from, high school to NBA was already starting, but as of recently, they sort of, the NBA sort of announced that they weren't going to remove that one and done rule because of like a lot of complications with unions and getting physicals and blah, blah, blah. I think that's all BS. In terms of like alternate routes to the NBA, I think there are an infinite amount of other routes to the NBA. I mean, let's look at LaMelo Ball.
Lithuania.
LaMelo Ball had committed to UCLA as an 8th grader or 9th grader or something crazy like that. And then the summer before his older brother LiAngelo starts, he decides to steal from a Gucci shop in China. So for some reason, the whole family dipped to Lithuania out of all the countries. And even in Lithuania, it was clear that a good basketball player can get coverage, can get media, and can get scouting. You know, and he also brought light to a league not many people probably knew about. So he was able to develop playing against grown men as a high schooler. And then, you know, now look where he is today. And then there were these two players, Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga, who are projected to be, I think, lottery picks, maybe even top 5 next year. They're both G League players. Jalen Green, I think, was the number 1 basketball prospect out of high school. I think just the fact that they are where they are today, it says a lot. I mean, college, I'm in college, I'm paying for college, but it's a scam. It really, like the fact that you're not going to let the students make money off each other. Like the fact that my jersey does not say DeSumo on the back, I think that's garbage. You know, he's one of the best players in the country. He's bringing in millions of dollars in revenue for our school, and they're not paying him. Like, yeah, he gets a scholarship, but I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I think, morally, yeah, the colleges should do more. Like they should pay the players for jersey sales and stuff like that, at least a portion of that kind of stuff. They should be able to make money off their name, all that kind of, or their likeness, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, though, you have to think from a player's perspective. You can't think about, oh, I want to show it to the big guy and not go to college, and then you screw yourself over. You go to Europe, you go to the G League, maybe you don't have a good season. You lose a lot of that, the potential to play in front of, a national TV audience, all that kind of stuff. So I think college still would be the better route.
Yeah.
But, definitely there's a lot of alternatives. And if you're a good player, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can make the NBA.
You're right. It is a bigger risk, actually. It's one thing I didn't take into consideration to go straight to Europe, because those players are better than college players. So chances are you are not going to succeed. And if you have one bust season over there, that's all it takes for people to
come back from. Yeah.
I mean, that's why everyone thought and kind of knew that Luka would be similar to how he was. Granted, I don't think anyone saw him blowing up like crazy, like the scouts stuff like that. They didn't think he'd be that good. But one of the reasons why the Mavericks drafted him is because he won EuroLeague MVP. And that essentially means you are the best player in the entire, basically, overseas ball, like.
He's like 16 or 17.
Yeah, it's such a young age. One thing I did want to mention is, so there was an NBA player, I forgot, I think it was Matt Barnes, but he was saying how what the G League is doing is amazing, and that it's putting pressure on the NCAA to pay their players, but he still thinks that players should be going to the play college ball, because not only are you getting that experience and things like that, you have that coach like Coach K, I can't think of any more off the top of my head. Like those head coaches, they're known for turning these guys into obviously good basketball players, but also into responsible young men too, right? So when you go into the NBA and you're given millions of dollars, you're not just blowing it on like random BS.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Even in the G League.
Yeah, exactly. But the G League, the thing with, I was gonna get into this a little after, but the thing with the G League that I have an issue with is, I've heard this from many players like Alex Caruso, the other Curry brother, I'm completely blanking out right now. Yeah, Seth Curry. They were talking about how it's really, really competitive, but what guys don't understand, Alex Caruso said it perfectly. He said guys are going in as if they're interviewing for the CEO when they really are supposed to be interviewing for a janitor, right? So they don't know their roles. That's the issue with the G League, right? So I think the NCAA has an advantage where you know exactly what role you play on your team, and also you learn that responsibility as a young man quicker.
Yeah, and winning matters more too in the NCAA. I think with the G League, it's kind of just like
every man for himself.
team. You have different teammates every other week. Guys are being promoted, guys are being cut. Maybe I'm not quite sure 100%.
And the way that all these ex G League players talk about it is they make it seem super cutthroat, where it's I'm gonna go get mine. Exactly. I'm not gonna let you shine. We're the NCAA, where if you look at a team like Kentucky or Kansas, these guys play together where they all look good and they all most of them go to the league.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. But I do think that eventually the NCAA will pay their players, maybe not as much as a G League, but enough where they can live. Because I know Kelly's doing that right now too.
Yeah, California.
So if they were to pay their players, what method would you guys suggest? Would you want it to be based on likeness, jersey sales, or would you want it to just plain out be hey, we're going to give you 200, 300,000 to come to our school and play? What would you guys?
This is what I think, and I am all for paying players. I would love to pay players, but what happens is you get schools like Illinois who are just starting to make more money. You get schools like Kentucky and Duke who have billions of dollars, who are just going to get all the top prospects because they paid them the most money. So you have to figure out this baseline. The NCAA has to make some baseline regulation. Maybe just pay all the players the same. Maybe, hey, pay them a good 10, 20,000. That's enough to live in college and you're making some good amount of money. Or you do not pay any of them and you just have them make money off their own likeness if they'd like to.
And I think that's the way to go because it balances the playing field. Because what happens when, like you were saying, the top 50, 60, 70 schools in the country start saying, hey, we'll pay you guys 100,000 to come here and you can get your likeness sales and stuff like that. Then what happens to those mid majors and lower tier Division I schools? They're effectively kind of relegated to what, Division II or something? I mean, they can't compete then.
So what'll happen is when you have these players who realize they're not getting a salary, but they're going to make money off their likeness, and they're going to be more encouraged to go to some lesser named D1 schools just because they know everyone at the school is going to want to buy their jersey. They're going to, it'll probably even the playing field even more if they have it that way. What do you think?
So I agree that basically like a per diem, right? Where you do that and you make them have money, make money off their likeness, because you are able to have these smaller schools attract prospects, right? The other thing I wanted to say was the NCAA, I think eventually they're going to start doing this because they're realizing, oh shit, the G League is trying to do something that we cannot do or we will not do, right? And people are starting to recognize that, like, yo, the G League's going to pay me, I think it's $200,000 a year, right?
So, yeah, they get different salaries, but yeah.
They get paid a good amount, right? And then also, I think they're guaranteed a scholarship. So they're essentially doing what the NCAA does, but giving them money.
Yeah, Jalen Green, I think he just got paid $300,000 from the G League. So like, it's really hard to say no to that money, especially when you're getting quote unquote zero from colleges. I know they're low key slipping some money to.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, do you guys know Darius Baisley? I think he's on Oklahoma City.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, well, he signed with LeBron's agent, and after high school, he ended up not going to college. I'm not sure if he played in the G League or not. I don't think he did, but he got a $1 million like internship with maybe New Balance or Nike or one of those like shoe brands, one of the bigger shoe brands. So I'm wondering, do you guys think that the shoe brands are going to start saying, you know what? Yeah, top players can't come from high school, but what if we use a loophole and say, hey, we'll give you guys a $2 million internship to come work for us, basically to lure them into signing with them once they do become NBA players?
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that
you're saying paying them while they're G League players or high school players?
So okay, so you graduate from high school, you're a top player.
Yeah.
Nike comes to you and says, hey, instead of you going to college, we'll give you an internship with our company.
Yeah.
Pay you $2 million. So, it's not really a traditional internship.
Yeah.
But so they'll pay them $2 million to be an intern at Nike. That way they get to know them. And then when they do get drafted, assuming they're a high pick, which they would be if they got that kind of money with an internship, then they could sign with Nike. Do you think that's going to start becoming a bigger thing, or do you think
is the most amazing loophole ever? Because what Nike can do is, right, everyone already knows this player is probably going to get drafted after 1 year because that's when he's eligible. So Nike can just get him tryouts at all these teams anyway.
Yeah, get a head start
with them. That's a dude.
Exactly. Yeah,
I didn't think about that. That's insane. So you throw in shoe companies, throw in other clothing, departments and things like that, clothing brands. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
dude,
I mean, that would only be than for like the top 10 players in the country.
Yeah. Capitalism is crazy, bro.
All right, so one word answer. Which way is the better route to the NBA? The G League, NCAA, or going overseas and then playing? Currently. Go ahead, Kasem.
Probably the G League, but honestly, I know you want a one-word answer, but I would honestly say both, because if you're right out of college, I'd probably go to the G League, give it like 2 years, see if you can get to the NBA. But after that, I mean, I think playing in Europe, if you can show that you can play at a high level in one of the top European leagues, you could definitely get to the NBA. I mean, we've seen it with a lot of players over the years, especially recently.
Yeah.
For me, statistically, I'm saying right now, as of right now, NCAA, just because of the number of people who are drafted from the NCAA, right? Just by going off of numbers. But give it 10 years, the amount of people being drafted from the G League, well, especially starting this year, this is a new trend, from G League and from overseas have been increasing rapidly. Given 10 years, you're going to have more overseas players than domestic players. Give the
Yeah.
NBA maybe 20, 25 years. Most of the NBA might not even be American. And I am totally down for that because these European players are ballers, bro. Oh my God. Luka, I said this in another podcast. I love Luka. I love him so much. We need more people like him.
Not even Europe, man. Think about all the talents coming out of Africa.
Yeah.
Think about all the Nigerians. Think about a guy like Pascal Siakam, Joel Embiid, all those guys that are coming from Africa. Think about that talent that's coming out of there.
And there's also a lot of people from Africa that, grew up in the United States.
Yeah.
And then get drafted too. So if that could translate to people, not necessarily being from the US, but being from Africa and then getting drafted, you'll see a big increase.
Yeah, I'll change my statement. Not Europe. I mean the whole world.
Just worldwide. And that's one of the things that David Stern did really, really well is expand the game, make it go international. That's one of his goals. And it's safe to say that he accomplished that, right?
The NBA made an African league, didn't they? They did, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I heard them talk about it in 2K. That's how I know this. That's my source. But yeah, they
have a 2K episode one day.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about which way we think is the better route to the NBA. Now let's talk about which one is more competitive, right? I think that the G League is more competitive in the sense that I said earlier. Everyone's just trying to go get 30. No one's really trying to make their other teammate look good. Everyone's just thinking, I need to get to the NBA. It's a very cutthroat environment. And this is also based on what other former G League players have said. So, Kasem, go ahead.
I think it depends what league again, but I think the top leagues in Europe are probably more competitive because if you watch the NBA, summer league showcases and the preseason games, you see some of the top teams actually beat the NBA teams.
Ooh, okay.
Whereas the G League team, there's no way they're beating an NBA team. I think maybe the talent of the players is there where they could potentially compete, but I feel that the cohesion is just not there.
Yeah. I think we kind of have to be careful on what we define as competitiveness, right? Because if we're going purely off of numbers, if you compare the number of teams versus the number of people drafted, then you have to go NCAA. Because the NCAA has so many D1 teams, it's ridiculous. And versus the number of people who are drafted is such a small number. But if we're talking purely off of skill, overseas, simply because Luka, do you guys remember what Luka said? Luka said it's easier to score in the NBA than it is to score in Europe. And Draymond Green was just talking about this on a podcast the other day. He goes, when Luka first said that, everyone's like, wow, how disrespectful is that? Blah, blah, blah. I can't believe he said that. That's what all the NBA players were thinking. And now that they see Luka, they're like, oh, he was clearly right. He was clearly right because Luka does whatever he wants. And he's slow.
They can't touch him.
They can't even touch him. He scores however he wants. Crazy.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason that's what he meant too is the NBA is it's hard to play defense nowadays. There's no hand checking. You can't do you can't do anything. All you can do is just stick a hand in their face and that's it.
Hey,
right? You're what's up?
Okay, some random question. It just came up in my mind. You think if you put your mind to it, you could have made any of these D2, D1 schools?
Who knows? It's too hard to say. Maybe, maybe not.
Okay. All right. I mean, dude, seeing you play, I'm like, I definitely could have seen it happen for sure. Are you gonna be like one of the uncles at the barbecue, or just like, look, I could have made the league one day, but I had the shoulder injury. That's what happened.
I was never the same after my injury.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to current NBA news, the Jazz have been on a hot streak, winning 17 out of their last 18. I don't think anyone saw that coming, but I think one person that saw that coming was Donovan Mitchell, and that's because Shaq was torching that man after that interview.
Dude.
That I still can't believe Shaq said what he said, and I'm very happy that Donovan Mitchell was just like, okay, he didn't care. But the real question is, what does this mean for the league? And, more specific, what does this mean for the Lakers? Kasem?
Okay. So, I think they're a formidable team in the Western Conference. They could definitely win the conference. They're deep. They've got a superstar in Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion. Rudy Gobert's big time, probably one of the best defensive players in the league. You have Bogdanovic, who knocks down, 3 after 3 after 3. There's a really deep team. Could they beat the Lakers? Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for them. But I actually think they have a better chance of beating the Lakers than the Clippers.
Then the Clippers have beating the Lakers?
What was that?
You're saying they have a better chance of beating the Lakers than the Clippers do?
I think the Jazz have a better chance to beat the Lakers than the Clippers do, yeah.
Oh.
Jeez. So you know what? I watched the Clippers and the Lakers. I mean, I watched the Clippers and the Jazz the other day. And to an extent, I kind of agree with you because the Jazz have way better chemistry. The Jazz have they have role players that know that they're role players. Like they know exactly what they're supposed to do and they embrace their role. Joe Ingles is a dog. Dude, he is 3-and-D. He's always guarding their best player. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is who do you think is the most valuable person on that team? Do you think it's possibly a role player that brings everyone together? Do you think it's Donovan Mitchell or do you think it's Rudy? What do you think?
The most important player you said?
Yeah, the most important player, maybe the MVP of that team. Who do you think it is?
I'd say probably Mitchell.
Yeah, that's the obvious guess.
But it takes the whole team, really. I mean, you take away Gobert, they're not competing in the West. You take away Mitchell, they're not competing. Even if you take away a couple of those role players, they're not competing. Or you replace them with players that, don't really know their role. They would take bad shots, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They'll mess up the chemistry of the team.
Okay,
there are rumors that Bradley Beal is going to the Utah Jazz. There are rumors that if Bradley Beal goes to the Utah Jazz, then they automatically become a championship contender. I really want to see that. I really want to see Joe Ingles, Bradley Beal, Donovan Mitchell, and Gobert play on the same team. I think that'll work. And I think Bradley Beal will be happy as hell to go to a team like that, especially on the hot streak they're on.
But keep in mind, if the Jazz get Bradley Beal, they're probably going to have to give up one or two big players and a bunch of picks, meaning they're going to have to give away. They'd probably end up giving away Joe Ingles, maybe even Joe Ingles with Bojan Bogdanovic. Those two players are really, really valuable. I don't know if they want to give up Mike Conley. I don't know if anyone really wants Mike Conley. Is it worth?
Mike Conley's on that team.
Yeah, yeah. He's been a little down this year. I think he had some injury problems.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Is it worth giving up those key role players just to get Beal?
Depends who you give up. Yeah. I think that's what it comes down to. But I would love to see Bradley Beal and Donovan Mitchell play together. That would be something fun to watch.
Okay.
Because Washington, I'm sorry, but he needs to get the hell out of Washington. That man is wasting his career playing there. They clearly don't want to do anything about that team. They don't want to build. They got rid of John Wall, which I don't understand at all, and they picked up Russ.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Kasem. So top of the West, we have the Jazz winning by a half game. That's only because with Lakers a half game behind them, but the Lakers played one more game than the Jazz. 76ers at the top of the East, 2 games ahead of the Bucks. 76ers versus Jazz in a 7-game series. Who wins?
76ers. I mean, sorry, Jazz. I think the Jazz would win.
Whoa.
Really? Because, I was watching the 76ers the other day, and the reason Ben Simmons is having such a good year this year, a more productive year this year, is because A, Joel Embiid's doing a lot better.
Yeah.
But B, Ben Simmons, the only team he can actually succeed on in the NBA is probably only the 76ers, only because the 76ers have 4 players who can shoot. If you have 4 players that can shoot, then it's okay to have a player like Ben Simmons to go and drive in because you're going to have everyone else out on the wings, out on the perimeter, and there's going to be no one in the paint to stop Ben Simmons anyway.
Seth Curry's on a tear, 50, 100, 100 club. Insane.
Yeah. What's it called? So you think even though the 76ers have a greater depth, you think the Jazz have it in them to beat them with MVP level Joel Embiid, whereas the Jazz arguably don't have an MVP candidate.
I think the Jazz could beat them because I think that they're just the chemistry of the team's a little bit better. And 2, because if you look, the 76ers best player, Joel Embiid, I think you guys would agree.
Yeah.
The best player, okay.
Yeah.
You have Gobert guarding Embiid. I won't say that cancels him out, but it definitely makes Embiid's job harder.
Yeah.
Simmons still can't shoot. So he's got to rely on his teammates to knock, he's a great player, but he still can't shoot.
Yeah.
7. So, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the Jazz it's hard to say, on paper. I mean, I would agree that the 76ers probably have a better team. But just watching the teams play, I think that the Jazz the chemistry's there. They play, they have fun when they're playing. I just think they'd win.
Also, the Sixers have not proven themselves in the playoffs yet, too.
That's
so
true
we need
too,
to remember that. The Jazz have been on a tear last season with the bubble. Donovan Mitchell played out of his mind.
I think the key for the Jazz beating the 76ers is if Donovan Mitchell has to go off all the time. He needs to be in complete control scoring-wise. But the key for the 76ers, if they want to beat the Jazz, has to be Tobias Harris. Because he's that third option who is hard to have a person guard. Because you have to have two of your best defenders on Embiid and a really good paint defender on Simmons. You're going to have to find someone to guard Tobias Harris and then Seth Curry on the three-point line. Yeah. So it has to be Tobias Harris. He has to be in his bag in order for them to beat the Jazz. So I do agree with you based on this year.
I don't think Donovan Mitchell has to have that great of a series, though. I mean, he can't be, bad, but if he's solid, Mike Conley steps up, and then Jordan Clarkson plays well off the bench.
Who's been playing really well lately.
Yeah, he has been. And then you have Gobert, who does his thing. I mean, I think they could beat anybody in the league.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right, so I wanted to ask, kind of diverting from all this, who do you guys have coming out of the East and who do you guys have coming out of the West?
For the East, and I want to say the Nets, but I don't know if they'll get it together by the end of the season. So I'll say the 76ers. I think they could pull it off this year. And then in the West, I'm still gonna give the edge to the Lakers, but I like the Jazz. The Clippers are a little bit, I think in my opinion slightly below the Jazz, but I think they're right there too. But I'd say Jazz losing to the Lakers in the conference finals. And then
I think one team that can beat the Jazz are the Suns. Just if you look at the matchups,
maybe
it's possible, but I don't think it's gonna be easy.
I mean, the West is so competitive though. There's 6 or 7 teams that could. I mean,
yeah.
Do I think they're gonna win the West? No, but could they?
Yeah,
possibly. Yeah.
The Trail.
Who's your team coming out of the West?
The Lakers.
Okay. Jermaine, what about you?
Okay, I mean, so if we look at the East, right, we have 76ers, Bucks, Nets, and Celtics, top 4. Realistically, those are the only 4 teams that have a chance. Celtics,
not the Bulls.
You wouldn't say the Heat if they get it together later.
No, I didn't. I think that he got lucky last year.
Lucky, yeah. Okay.
What
if the Heat got Bradley Beal, but they gave up some players?
Bradley Beal.
Hey, the Don Pat Riley can make it possible too.
Man,
the Godfather can make it possible. It's true.
As of right now, aren't even in the playoffs, right? They're 9th seed.
Yeah, but
they're injured and they're tired from the bubble.
Yeah,
you remember that.
Never mind. I wasn't sure because the other day Draymond Green said he saw a player that's been more out of shape now than he ever been in his entire life. Everyone's thinking he was talking about Anthony Davis, but Jimmy Butler's had a rough physical season this year, so maybe he was talking about him. Yeah. But Jimmy Butler runs more than anyone else. Anyway, I've diverted too much.
East coming out. Who's coming out of the East?
I think the Nets, because I think it was James Harden or Durant, maybe 1 or 2 days ago, said that I don't know if anyone can beat us 4 times. I think every series they're gonna have to play might go 6 or 7 games, but I think the Nets always come out on top. I mean, I don't know if it's still the case, but maybe last week they had the number 1 offensive rating ever and the worst defensive rating ever. And James Harden's not a scrub at defense. Durant's a pretty good rim protector. He's okay. There should be no excuse for them to be that bad.
And they have a solid rim protector already, DeAndre Jordan.
The thing is, they have D'Antoni and they have Steve Nash as their coaches. What are they called? 6 misses or less defense.
Yeah.
It's
that's gone offense.
So basically, the Nets coming out because I just think they have too much firepower, and I think they'll figure it out. If they figure it out, even with 1 week left to go in the regular season, that's a lethal team. Western Conference. Probably.
Wait, so you're saying just based off of talent, right? Because they're just too talented. Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Out of the West, I think the Lakers, because the Lakers have had a problem this year so far with starting off games. Like yesterday, they were down 22-2 in the first quarter, but they won, which is scary. Okay, so if they
Yes.
figure out how to start games, I think they have a good chance to win it all, or at least put up a good fight against the Nets. I mean, I don't know if they have the good matchup for the Nets, but they have an actual fighting shot at the championship if they can figure out how to start games.
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, we mentioned Mike Conley earlier about old people who are still balling out. What do you think about Carmelo Anthony? When do you think it's his time to pull the plug? Because he just said the other day he has nothing to prove to anybody. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like when you're in the NBA and you say, I have nothing to prove, whether it's to yourself or to other people, what are you playing for? I don't know. When do you think it's time for him to pull the plug?
Okay.
Whenever you
So
want.
real quick, before he got signed to the Trailblazers, I don't know how long he was out of the NBA for, but he was out for quite a while, right? And everyone was saying, "Oh, why isn't he in the NBA? Why isn't he in the NBA?" He was talking about this kind of break he took, and he said it was really rough on him. And in the beginning, he was doubting himself and like, man, maybe I should just hang it up. Maybe I should just, announce my retirement and all these other things. And then he came to the realization. He's like, man, forget that. He's like, I'm for sure going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't know if he for sure said this like word for word, but this is basically what he said. He said, I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. I've proved my career in Syracuse. I've proved my NBA career with the Nuggets, with the Knicks, right? I'm a proven scorer. Everyone knows how much of a legend I am. So to answer your question, I think he doesn't mean it in terms of I don't need to prove it as in winning a championship like that. I think he means like, yo, everyone knows I'm a dog. Everyone knows I'm good. Everyone knows I'm a Hall of Famer. It's more of that.
Mhm.
I think he's just balling for ball's sake.
I think he's balling because he loves the sake of basketball and he loves that team. I mean, yo, that team, the camaraderie they have is insane. Whether or not they're winning games and tight and like series and things like that, the brotherhood and like the camaraderie they have on that team is you have to notice that and applaud it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think whenever he wants, I think he's earned the right to retire as long as he can play at a solid level in the NBA. He can play for as long as he'd like.
So what I was wondering the other day after Tom Brady won his Super Bowl, and I forgot who mentioned, I don't know if I saw it in a documentary or not, but like
That was a terrible game, by the way.
What's up?
Terrible Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Terrible game.
Whatever. What I was thinking about was, is a good time for athletes to retire when they're on top, they made it to the top. Is that a good time to retire, or do they wait until they're literally physically broken down, kind of like Kobe Bryant was, and then you call it quits? When
Or
you're
MJ with the Wizards.
yeah, when you sort of quit while you're down instead of quit while you're up.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. I mean, it depends. Like you said, like for Kobe Bryant, it didn't really, work out. Like the last couple seasons were really difficult for him. But Tom Brady, on the other hand, had he retired at 37, 38, I don't think people would have been talking about, him being the greatest of all time. He would have been in the conversation, but it wouldn't have been a no-brainer. Whereas, by playing that extra 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons, I mean, what is he, 43? He's going to be 44 next year.
Yeah.
So instead of retiring at 38 by playing 6, 7 extra seasons, he's won 3 championships, maybe another one. So he could win 4 or 5 championships by the time he's
Which
done
is
with
insane.
yeah, by the time he's done with those extra 7 or 8 seasons, which will, will just build on his legacy, and it'll become a no-brainer that he's the best player of all time. But I think for most players, it's not going to happen. They'll wind up playing, 37, 38, 39, 40, and just playing at a lower level. But I think it depends on the player. If you don't really care about maybe playing at like Vince Carter, if you don't care about maybe coming off the bench or embracing a different role, then by all means it's worth continuing to play. But if you want to be that superstar type player, kind of like Carmelo Anthony did a couple of years ago, if you want to be that superstar type player, it's going to be difficult to keep that up at 37, 38, 39, 40, with the exception of maybe a couple people. Like I think LeBron could keep it up.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten himself in that kind of shape where, he could be the Tom Brady of the NBA to an extent.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I would say it's it's more fulfilling to quit while you're up. For just I'm not in any of their positions anyway. And you are right to say that, like, yeah, we never would have known about Tom Brady. But I feel like you get to a point where if you feel like you've proved everything to yourself,
Yeah.
and then you feel like nothing else matters after that, even though you might be at the top of your game, why not just quit while you're on top?
But did Kobe, think about it, did Kobe Bryant's legacy or Dwayne Wade's legacy decrease by playing maybe 2 or 3 more seasons than they should have?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Yeah. So I mean,
I think if anything, things like that where Kobe, played his last couple seasons, wasn't playing as well. D-Wade did the same thing, went to Chicago, came back to Miami. Those type of things, I think, actually build your legacy, and it kind of has people say, "Oh, he gave it all, right? He put his body on the line. He gave the game everything he could."
And they make for some cool jerseys too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the final segment in today's podcast. Start, bench, cut. Kasem, I think you know how this works. Give you 3 players, start, bench, cut for your own team. Okay? We're going to start off with an interesting trio. Patrick Beverley, Eric Gordon, Karis LeVert.
LeVert's still out, right?
Yeah, but given that LeVert's playing like LeVert, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Start LeVert. Cut Beverly, bench Gordon.
Okay.
I can't be mad at that. I agree.
I would start LeVert. I would bench Beverly and cut Gordon, only because, whether or not you want to argue Patrick Beverly is actually playing defense or not, he is a pest, a physical, he's going to beat the hell out of you physically, So whether or not you call that defense is up to you, but just having that physical energy on your team, I think is still pretty valuable, especially if you want to have him come off the bench. All right.
That's that Chirac blood in him.
Yeah, for real. Okay, next one. All in their primes, all at their very, very best. David Robinson, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett.
Oh, man.
You want to take this one? Or you want me to go first?
David Robinson.
Go ahead, you go first.
Okay. I haven't really seen David Robinson play a whole lot just because he was kind of before I got into basketball. But I'd say this might be a little biased, but I'd say start Nowitzki, bench Robinson, and cut Garnett.
That's exactly the lineup I had too.
Yeah.
Nowitzki.
Happy you guys started Nowitzki because that's my guy.
Yeah. Nowitzki, I think, was more valuable to his teams when he won than when Garnett and Robinson won. Garnett and Robinson both had great teams around them, great coaching staff, great everything. I mean, it doesn't take away from how good of players they were. But
they had super teams.
Yeah, they had super teams. And I think it was more impressive for Nowitzki to win. And I would take the Admiral over Kevin Garnett. What about
real quick, KG story. I was listening to I think it was Jared Sullinger. I don't know if you guys remember the Ohio State Buckeye who got drafted by the Celtics. So this is his rookie year, and he's telling the story, and he's sitting on the bench, and they're at practice, right? And I think this is a couple years after they won, the Celtics, right? With Rondo, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, KG. So he's sitting on the bench, and they're at practice, and Doc Rivers goes, "Sully, go sub in for Ticket." Kevin Garnett. And Jared Sullinger goes, "Okay," and he gets up, and he's like, "Yo, Ticket, get on the bench." He's like, "You got me effed up." He's like, "Nah, sit your ass back down." And then Sullinger's like, "Okay, it's Ticket, it's Kevin Garnett. I'm not gonna mess with him." He goes back to the bench, everything's all good. A couple minutes later, Doc Rivers goes, "Sully, I told you to go sub in for Ticket. What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "Coach, he doesn't want to come out." He's like, "All right, I'll take care of it." He goes, "Ticket, get your old ass on the bench." and then KG's like, "Doc, you got me effed up. You don't want me to be better? What is wrong with you? You got me effed up, bro. You got me better." And then Doc Rivers like, "Man, we ain't got time for this for your old ass. Get on the bench." Goes on the bench. Sullinger comes in the game, or comes into practice. They're playing scrimmages, whatever. And out of the corner of his eye, he sees Ticket running straight suicides on the sideline, just running, right? And I forgot to mention this, before he subbed out, he starts banging his head on like the pad for the basketball rim that he normally does, just banging it, yelling at Doc, "You got me effed up. You can't sub me out." Blah blah blah.
Cocaine is one hell of a drug.
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. And then Sullinger's like, "Yeah, bro, we're playing," and Ticket starts running full on suicide sprints. After he's done with that, he notices that Kevin Garnett starts mocking every one of Jared Sullinger's moves on the sideline. So every time Jared Sullinger pump fakes, Kevin Garnett starts pump faking like full speed and just starts messing with him. And everyone's looking at him like, "Yo, what the hell is this guy on?" I just thought of mentioning that because so the point of the story was Jared Sullinger was asked, "Is Kevin Garnett's intensity real? Or is he just faking it?" And he's like, "Nah, bro. That man is completely genuine. All of his like intensity and all that stuff isn't an act. Like he's actually that like wired."
Huh.
Yeah, funny story.
That's crazy. I don't know if you guys ever heard the Joakim Noah story, his villain origin story.
Yeah.
He loved KG. KG was like his favorite player growing up. First game in the NBA against KG, he goes, "Yo, I'm a big fan," blah blah blah, and he gets cursed out by KG, and now KG is his number one enemy.
Yeah. He asked him about a move, and he's like, "Yo, KG, that was a nice move. I'm your biggest fan." And he's like, "Who the F are you?" And then Joakim Noah's like, "Oh shit, bro, I messed up."
Oh my god. That's funny.
Hilarious.
Okay. Next start bench cut. We
Mhm.
got Derrick Rose, Drew Holiday, D'Angelo Russell at their current.
At their current.
Oh. Where is D'Lo right now?
Russell?
Yeah.
He's on the Timberwolves.
Yeah. He's been doing pretty good. He's been balling out.
Oh, yeah.
So
He's
who
with
are-
Cat.
Who were the three? So Russell, Rose, and who?
Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday. Okay, so currently I would take. I haven't seen enough of Russell this year, but if I base it on like what I've seen from him in the past couple of years, I'd say probably Russell. I don't know, Russell or Holiday. It's a toss up. I'll say I'll switch it to Holiday because Holiday's been on better teams. So Holiday, then Russell, and then Rose.
Huh.
Okay.
I'm taking Holiday because for everyone that's listened to every episode, I've been gassing up my man Drew Holiday, and I've been saying that he's the key if the Bucks want to go to the finals and potentially win.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna bench D Rose just because I think D Rose is gonna have an insane career this year or insane season this year with Tibbs and with them young Bucks on the Knicks.
Yeah, I would do exactly the same as that one.
Mhm.
Okay. All in their primes. We got Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird.
Oh, Brian.
Larry Bird start, bench Kobe, and then
What?
cut Duncan.
Give me
What?
D, Mr.
Yeah,
Fundamental.
look at Larry Bird's stats, dude.
Yeah, Larry Bird, I think we can agree for starting.
Yeah.
It's just hard to say. It's what you're saying made sense, but it's just hard to
This is why I
hear.
put Kobe Bryant over Duncan though, because if you look at his stats, he was always. I mean, not to say Duncan wasn't the best player on his team, he was, but I feel like Bryant was putting up like 30. He was just taking it to a whole new level in the playoffs. The intensity he had, I don't know, and I feel like there was less like camaraderie on his team. He went through dark periods with the Lakers. They weren't very good. And then you saw him
Much Parker.
he went from a championship level down to like a lottery level team and then back up. I
Okay.
don't know. You can't go wrong with either of them.
I would say
Right.
I would say start Kobe, bench Duncan, and cut Bird. Like if you look at their careers, I think Kobe arguably has the best one. Tim Duncan has the second best one, and Larry Bird has the third
Bird?
best. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's not fair to Larry though, because he did get injured. But
Yeah, he had a lot of back problems.
even when you compare the competition, Larry Bird's only like big competition was Magic.
You're saying as if that was not like a big.
Okay, but
That's
like
a lot though.
that is still a lot. But when you compare that to Duncan winning 5 rings in the 2000s and Kobe Bryant winning 5 rings, it's just like,
I don't know, Jimmy.
dude,
Is this your slander of the day?
no, dude, it's not even slander. You know what? Larry Bird, low-key.
Are we doing the slander against Larry Bird this episode?
Dude, no, I'm not. Larry Bird's a
Okay.
baller. I can. This is still a really difficult to start bench cut, but given like I can't start Larry though. Hold on, let me see what the comments said. Yeah, everyone said Kobe, Duncan, Bird.
No, man. I'm
I would
taking
say-
Bird, Kobe, and Timothy.
One person said Bird, Kobe, and Duncan, but nobody liked their comment. The only comments with likes on it are Kobe, Tim, and Larry. Okay.
So moving on to the last segment, our draft. We were going to do a draft of the best undrafted players. And I want to suggest that we switch it up and we do a draft on the best players from Illinois/Chicago. Would you guys rather do that or the best undrafted players?
We can do Illinois players. Hold on. Let me get you guys a list.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know.
Yeah.
Players from Chicago/Illinois?
Like the best. You're saying the best undrafted players from Chicago?
No. I'm saying just the best players from
best players-
Chicago/Illinois.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I don't know any undrafted.
No. I'm not gonna narrow it down that hard because I made a list before this episode of the best undrafted, and there's the list is kind of weak.
Yeah, I looked at the. They didn't have Van Fleet on it, but I'd add him to
Yeah,
that list.
Van Vliet was one of them, but
Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace is a good one. John Starks, but
Stars,
I think we're gonna have a lot more fun if we do a draft of the best players,
Chicago.
whether it's NBA, college, whatever,
Okay.
from Chicago/Illinois.
Huh.
And when I mean from, I mean actually from, not like a Kevin Garnett situation where he was born in I think Florida, and then moved to Chicago to play there.
Okay.
So are we cool with doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing players from Illinois just in general?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, I guess quickly though, because we don't want to make
Okay.
too long.
Sure.
But,
Kasem, we'll start with you.
All right. So number 1, Isaiah Thomas. Number 2, Dwayne Wade.
No. One at a time, sir.
Oh, my bad.
yeah, we're just gonna do
Draft.
like a snake draft. So it goes you, me, Abe, and then Abe, me, you, and then you
Okay.
get the 2 picks.
Okay. So I'll take Isaiah Thomas, number 1.
Okay.
Man, I'm going between Dwayne Wade or Derrick Rose. I'm gonna go Derrick Rose.
Okay, D Rose. All right, I'm gonna go Dwayne Wade and Tony Allen.
Ooh. You know what? Okay, just in case so no one else picks him, I'm gonna go with Anthony Davis.
Ooh. Okay, it's a good one.
This is my pick.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys are going to like this. George Mikan. You guys know who he is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's from Illinois.
I
Yeah.
did not know that. Wow.
That's a great pick.
You have one more pick.
Go with Iguodala. He's
Dang, I
from
was gonna take that.
Southern Illinois.
Andre Iguodala.
Okay. Next person on my team. I'll have Van Vliet. I'll put him at the 2.
Okay. I am gonna go. I'm gonna go with Eddie Curry. Solid NBA career. And Mark Aguirre.
Okay. I'm gonna break the rules here, and I know I'm gonna pick another guard, but I'm picking Ayo DeSumo.
Can't be wrong with that. Can't go wrong with that one.
I think it's okay because maybe he's gonna be in the NBA, so I think that's okay.
Okay.
Sir.
I'll go with Sean Livingston.
That's
Okay.
a good one.
And then you get your 5th pick as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You pick Mark Aguirre, you said?
Yeah.
Rose, I won't take him. Go Luther Head.
Yes, sir. I'm conflicted between putting Robert Covington at the 4 or putting Myers Leonard there. Okay, so last player I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna put Robert Covington at the 4.
Okay.
I can have some firepower. All right, are we gonna let Abe fix it, or I think we'll cut it off then.
He's drafting Kaminsky. He said, "Oh, I forgot about him."
Okay.
Nowitzki.
And Abe is having some technical difficulties. He's drafting Frank the Tank Kaminsky. Anyway, Kasem, you have any final words? Any final plugs for yourself for the future? I know you just ran for office. We
Mhm.
should have next time we have you on, we'll talk about that. You have
Okay.
any plugs for yourself? Anything you want to say to the people?
No plugs, but thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And keep up the great work. I'm a fan of the podcast.
For sure. Thank you. Woo! That was it, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Coleman Podcast. Peace out.